This morning I want to explain how we're reforming the broken criminal justice system. The system today is failing and badly needs reform. My mission is to make sure that families can feel safe in their homes. We must do it by making prison to be places of punishment with a half of prisoners reoffend within a year.
Okay, so if you could just give a name and introduce yourself.
My name is Gunn. I did 32 years in prison. Been out a few months. Wending my way through the world. It's a social fetish. Prison is a social and political fetish. At the moment as we speak, we've got two politicians sitting there for a matter of weeks. Utterly pointless, utterly expensive, and just exemplifies our obsession with prison as a form of punishment. It's a failure to the human imagination. It's a completely damaging, negative institution.
It rehashes itself. It doesn't. It changes for a period until the government need money or need to save funding, and then it just rehashes. It just renames the project, starts all over again.
Unfortunately, some very vulnerable people, adults and youngsters, find being in prison their easiest, most comfortable option.
But if people think that all ex-cons are scumbags, we're not going to let you play, we're not going to let you have a job, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, you're just driving people back to the easiest route for them, and that is going back to doing the crime and ending up back in prison. And people say, I told you so.
It's kind of an endless circle.
An endless, depressing cycle of stupidity. Yeah. My own sister was killed. I spent 6 months thinking of horrible, horrible things to do to the person who killed her. But that means I'm the last person you should ask for advice on policy when it comes to punishment.
I think you can have a culture of dependence, and people get used to asking for things and they get used to demanding things. And sometimes being in a prison and being institutionalised, I've seen this, how perfectly capable people find themselves becoming dependent on staff or on rules and regulations.
You can't force people to change. You can force the prison service to change, but you cannot force people to change. By and large, crime's a young man's game, prison's a young man's game, and at some point people think, so this, really not making much money, or, sitting in prison, I've lost my wife and kids are taken away. People come to a point where they decide, right, I've had enough.
The great thing about No Offence is that people come to the conferences from all over the criminological field, from the voluntary sector, from academic places, from probation, prisons, police. What I think is one of the most useful things at these conferences is when former offenders actually get up and tell their story.
My prison career, I should say, started from 12 years old. Well, my crime started from 9. First arrested at 5 years old. So very dysfunctional.
Because there's so many issues that young people face, and it's not a black or white area to talk about, so there's so many different variables, and today is coming and sharing ideas with other professionals and figuring out a way what we can do to move forward. Our biggest work is focused on prevention, so it's like the old saying, prevention is better than cure, so we'd rather get young people before they've made that mistake, because those who have made that mistake are now realizing how hard it is to integrate back into society.
It's been a strange existence. I mean, most prisoners come out of the gate with £43 in their pocket and a carrier bag with prison service printed on it helpfully to help them reintegrate.
And I was just telling Emeka this story. This time when I went and the cell shut behind me, I shivered. It was like I've never seen the cell before. Imagine that, I've been going to this place from a very young age. So I looked at the prison bars this time, and I shivered, actually shivered, and said, "You must be mad. How can you be sitting there? You can't get a can of Coke."
So when you've already been demonized for a crime you've committed and you feel rehabilitated, coming out and being demonized or stereotyped and judged by people doesn't help your situation.
What made me change was I looked behind me and realised all the devastation I left behind me wasn't just about me, it was a ripple effect.
I've essentially lived alone all of my life, and it's having to live with someone else. It's strange things. I'd never undressed completely in front of a woman. I'd never actually slept in the same bed as a woman. Never had to share someone else's living space in such an intimate way. You can't be back in society and not have the same rights as society. You can't ask someone to reform and rehabilitate and come back and join the great game of life without allowing them to play by the same rules as everyone else. That's absurd. You can't have legal obligations, as I do as everybody else does in society, without having the same legal rights and legal protections. You're in it or you're not. Society can't have it both ways.
Everywhere else I've been for a job, once I've mentioned, they ask on the form, and you have to declare now. So I've declared I'm a criminal. Either don't hear nothing back, or I hear, "Oh, you're good," because I've got loads of qualifications. They say, "Oh, you're well qualified, but you're just not quite back for the job." And I understand people out here are struggling for jobs, so why are you going to give somebody who's just coming out of prison a job?
I pay taxes, I can vote, I can do all the things I've campaigned for. In that sense, I'm back in society, but there's always this moral ambivalence. Can you ever, having killed someone, you take a huge step away from the human community. Can you ever take that step back completely? So I always feel slightly apart, always. I probably always will.